The sound.
Good morning and good evening to all Thai Global Summit attendees. I am Sundi Natarajan. I'm the President-elect at the Thai DC chapter. On behalf of the Thai DC chapter, I wanted to extend a very warm welcome to all the Thai Global Summit attendees. A few words about Thai DC and the role we play in the Thai ecosystem. As you know, one of the pillars, the key focus activities we do is around GovCon, government contracting. That is all about doing business with the US federal government agencies, state and local government agencies. Annually, we host GovCon, the first of the kind conference across the Thai ecosystem that brings not just the US federal government agency, CIOs, CTOs, procurement heads who come in and share a wealth of knowledge in how to go about doing business with the government, but they also share their upcoming procurements and strategies around it. We also help small businesses to get their first client, the first contract, what we call as the Beltway startups, help them scale and also get them into joint ventures and other conduits for scaling. We also help bring innovation into the Beltway, be it a startup in the Silicon Valley or at Boston or back in India or anywhere on the globe to do business with the government. So if you are part of the Thai community, any chapter globally that wants to enter US federal government, Thai DC's chapter and the board members are the ones who you need to get in touch with. Also, over the years, Thai DC and the board members have built very strong relationship with the Indian Embassy, Indian Ambassador, and also the Delhi Corridor. And we've helped dialogues around cross-border investments, simplifying foreign investments into India, and more importantly, exits, tax matters, immigration, you name it. So we are really looking forward to having a great Thai Global Summit. With that, I now want to invite Smita Siddhanti, board member at Thai Global Board of Trustees and a past president at Thai DC, to kick off the panel on working with the United States federal and state governments and opportunities for global firms. Smita is president at Endina, a government contracting consulting company. She's been at it for over 30 years now. She's also very instrumental at Thai Women, bringing in pretty much a lot of initiatives under the Thai umbrella. So over to you, welcome, Smita.
Thank you, Cindy. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us and for this exciting panel that we bring to you from Thai DC, the Washington DC, which is the capital of the US government, which is the largest buyer customer in the world, spending close to what, $6.8 trillion a year is my understanding for 2020 in September. So welcome to this. We wanted to open this up to our audience to see what kind of opportunities we can see for foreign companies around the globe, our membership in Thai, to see how they can interact with the US government expanding their international markets. So, so my own intro, as Sundi, thanks for putting this out there. I am not only the Thai DC ex-president, I am also the global trustee of Thai. And so my interest is in expanding opportunities for the entire global membership of Thai. So so this is a panel that I wanted to put together to see how we can showcase whether you want to invest in US for expanding your international market, or you want to do business with the US government directly in terms of procuring contracts. And so so we're bringing in this short time, I'm trying to bring the three angles here. One angle is of a agency that is helping the other foreign companies to invest and from all over the globe invest in USA in various states, and what kind of incentives they can provide to do that. And for that, I have Seth Eisenberg, who's joining us from Select USA, which is a U.S. Department of Commerce and U.S. Trade Commission administration's part, the agency that's part of that, and he can explain a little more about what Select USA stands for. So Seth is representing that, and then I have people. The two other angles is one of the agencies here in the U.S. government, and as you know, the U.S. government is spends money in everything. They spend money in buying from nails to tanks to aircrafts to everything else. So you can be a supplier to US government in supplying various things or building the bridges or infrastructure. And there's a lot of different opportunities doing from construction to intelligence to security, and the various agencies of government in energy, environment, commerce, labor, human health, medical technologies, all kinds of assistance that they buy. So as we say, they buy everything. There's nothing that US government doesn't buy. And the supply of that is also through contracts within the US government agencies. And that's how one works with it. They don't work with individuals directly, but you work directly with the government contracting. And so the government contracting community is very active in all the agencies, and the procurement officers there are the ones who oversee all that for their agencies. So one of the agencies that we would want to bring to you as an example is MCC, which is the Millennium Challenge Corporation. Although it sounds like a company, but it is a US United States government's agency, recently formed a couple years back, and that is using various companies all over the world to work in poverty alleviation of poverty and economic growth engine around the world. So that's we have the chief procurement officer from that, and the practice lead of their procurement, Prabhat Garg. Very honored to have you with us. I'll tell you a little more about Prabhatji. And then as the third vector that I wanted to bring in was how different companies can work with US government without going through the government, but working through other private sector companies. So I have myself, I've had my own consulting business after being partner in larger consulting firms. And we do direct business with the government. So we have prime contracts with the business, and we can bring, as government contracting companies or government consulting companies, we can bring partners from all over the world. And as Sundi pointed out before my talk, that Thai DC is made of a number of private companies, that hundreds of us who are doing business with the government, and any of you can tie up with us to do business with the government as our subcontractor, or as our, if the government allows, and the kind of work we do. You could have a back office with us. We could have joint ventures with you. So there's a lot that one can do with each other. But the larger companies, like you all probably know, Infosys and TCS and others, who are working in US government agencies, they all have various companies working with them. So one of such big companies is Tetra Tech, which has a footprint, a very large footprint around the globe. And Tetra Tech India office is run by Rakesh Goyal, who I'm honored to have with me, who's joining us from Bombay. So we want to give you these three angles, and hopefully we can learn a lot from this session coming forth. So my quick introduction of three of you, and then we can have you explain to them your opportunities that you provide, and then we can have a Q&A session. So hopefully all of you will send your questions through the chat, and Ravi Puli, our board member from Thai, is assisting us with this question curating, and I will be happy to moderate at the end of it. So let me give you the quick introduction of Seth Eisenberg. Welcome, Seth. You is a team lead for Asia Pacific and Western US at the Select USA in Department of Commerce. As I said, he's been with Select USA for last 7 years or 4 years, and before that with the International Trade Administration in the U.S. Department of Commerce too. And so he holds a BA from University of Pennsylvania and an MBA from Thunderbird. So welcome, Seth. And I have Prabhat Garg, who is representing MCC, the Millennium Challenge Corporation. Prabhat Garg is a senior director of Program Procurement Practice Group in MCC. He joined MCC in 2006 after about 18 years with the World Bank and the private sector. He manages a team from MCC staff and consultants working on MCC portfolio across the globe. Mr. Garg holds an engineering degree from IIT in India and a master's from business administration from University of Maryland. So welcome, Prabhatji. Good to have you. And then Rakesh Goyal, who's joining, as I said, from Bombay. Rakesh is managing director of Tetra Tech, India. If give me a second because here you are, Rakesh. Tetra Tech is a US-based consulting firm with 400 offices across the globe. So a formidable company. We are honored that you can join us and give us the time. Their key clients are all over the world, but Mr. Goyal is the managing director of Tetra Tech India for last 10 years after serving as general manager of Siemens India. Mr. Goyal is a senior power sector specialist with over 30 years of experience in power and water sector. He has completed several projects across the globe, but also with USAID, Asia Development Bank, and World Bank. And I think that perspective also would be interesting to hear from him on how Indian or other companies around the globe can work with the international organizations. And then he has worked in the area of energy efficiency and smart grid with Bangladesh, Jordan, and many other countries. Currently, the Tetra Tech India office is implementing 2 major projects that are interesting to know. USAID funded Partnership to Advance Clean Energy 2.0, and then RE program, and World Bank funded transmission project for Jharkhand, India. So that gives you the perspective of the difference of the vast type of things that one can do with international companies like that. Rakesh holds a bachelor's and master's degree in engineering from IIT and an MBA. He has recently been awarded a PhD in advanced metering infrastructure, and of course has written several articles and 2 books. So welcome, Rakesh. So with that, I'm excited and really delighted and honored actually to have you all on our panel. So Seth, would you like to go ahead and start with your with the Select USA? Tell us about it, and then tell us about yourself first, and then you can show us what Select USA is about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Smita, for that warm introduction, and thank you, Sundi, as well. It's an honor to be among such an esteemed group. I I think Ravi want
I
to hit
think your
play.
video is a little lower, so maybe your audio can be higher. Can everybody
You
hear
want-
him?
Can people hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Great. All right. Well, thank you very much. So we're going to be talking about how Select USA can facilitate business investment in the United States. Next slide, please. We'll start with an overview of foreign direct investment in the United States. The first question that people often ask is, why is the United States federal government interested in attracting foreign direct investment? Well, you can see that the picture of foreign direct investment is a large one. In 2019, over $260 billion in FDI inflows. The total stock, meaning the total cumulative amount of foreign direct investment in the United States at the end of 2019 was $4.5 trillion. That's trillion with a T. And then in terms of employment, it matters for our economy. So FDI is responsible for over 15 million total direct and indirect jobs in all 50 states and most of our territories. And you can see in the map, there's, it makes a pretty big impact. It also is important for innovation. Almost $67 billion were spent in R&D by US subsidiaries of foreign firms in 2018. Almost a quarter of all US goods exports are coming from, again, US subsidiaries of foreign firms, which if you think about it, makes a lot of sense because any company that's going to be expanding overseas into the US is going to be pretty well versed in import and export. And so, it makes sense that they may want to be, have a base in the United States for exporting, across North America and other places. And then these jobs are quality jobs. We're talking about, higher compensation than the total average job because they're hiring people for highly skilled labor. Next slide, please. So looking at it from the other side, why are foreign firms interested in expanding into the United States? Now, there's some obvious reasons in terms of, it's the largest consumer economy in the world, but it's not just about that. We're talking about a transparent, stable business environment with very clear legal system that treats all companies equally, regardless of origin. So you're not going to be treated differently because you're potentially a foreign subsidiary, a US subsidiary of a foreign firm. We spoke a little bit about R&D, but obviously, our university system is really important for that. We have 15 of the 20 top universities in the world in the United States, and a very robust university system that can be very helpful, not just with R&D, but also as a pathway to hiring. Obviously, hiring skilled workers is extremely important, and so being able to partner with universities is an important part of that. Strong IP protection is important, and we have two indicators here on the screen that are external. You don't just have to take my word for it. For the World Bank's ease of doing business, when you're talking about major economies, the United States is ranked #1. There's some smaller economies there that are up there in the list as well. And then there's an annual survey of C-suite executives around the world that Kearney conducts when they talk about where are you most confident in investing in foreign markets. And the United States has been #1 for 8 years now running. Next slide, please. So we'll give a bit of an overview about Select USA. We were established in 2011 as the only federal level program facilitating and promoting foreign direct investment in the United States. Obviously, we're a big bureaucracy, and I'll talk about that later, but we're part of the US Department of Commerce within the International Trade Administration. Our services are mainly to foreign companies that are interested in expanding into the United States or starting a business in the United States. Also, foreign companies that have a presence in the United States and are looking to either expand further or have other issues taken care of. We also do serve US companies when it's an issue that involves an international border. And also our other main client base are US economic development organizations. Those are organizations that are dedicated to promoting their location as a destination for investment. We'll get into that a little bit later. Since our inception, we have facilitated more than 78 billion in foreign direct investment, and we'll move on to show you our global network here. So we work hand in hand with our commercial service staff across the world and across the United States. There's 7 offices just in India alone, but most of the major markets where you're doing business you'll probably have a commercial service office either within your country or as a partner post tied to State Department in a nearby market as well. And then if you look at the United States map there, we cover the entire United States with our US field offices as well. They're there to help companies export and also help with investment issues as well. Next slide, please. So let's speak a bit about the services that Select USA can offer for foreign companies and US companies. The first is actionable information to support business decisions. The second is a platform for connections to our global network. The third is to help you navigate the federal system, to help bring clarity to federal rules and regulations. And again, as I said, we offer the same services to domestic companies as well within the US. So just in the middle of this, I want to give a big thank you to all of the entrepreneurs who are based in Asia that are staying up really late to participate in this conference. And we look forward to serving and working with you. But for companies that are also based in the US, there are things that we can do to assist you. Next slide, please. So let's speak a bit about actionable information. Because we are a part of the federal government, we are geographically neutral. So what that means in practice is I would say the two most common questions that we get asked by companies that are interested in the United States is, how do I expand the United States? What are the requirements? What's the minimum amount of investment? And they might have questions about, how things work in terms of rules and regulations and maybe incentives. So the answer to all of those questions, well, the most obvious one is so there's no minimum amount of investment. There are certain programs that require investment, but when it comes to establishing a company in the United States, there's no minimum investment. Companies can come and do that. There's no citizenship requirements to establish a company in the US either. But a lot of the questions about how things work really depends on where you're going to go, right? So the answer is often, well, it depends. If you're interested in one state, it's going to be a bit different from the other. Can you go back, please, to the previous slide? Thank you. So, that's the first question. But then the second question is, okay, well, if it depends where I go in the United States, then please tell me, advise me where I should go. So our purpose here is not to tell you, here's the state or the city that you should be setting up your business in. What we aim to do is to arm you with the best objective information, again, based on your objective business considerations. So we have a research team and we can help put together research reports that contain some of the things that you see here on the slide. Every business is different. Every business is going to have a different set of considerations for where they want to go. So what we want to do is make sure that you are informed with all the best information, the best data, and then based on that information and whatever other information, whatever your considerations are, you can then inform us and tell us, okay, here are the 3 states or here are the 2 cities that I am interested in speaking to. And so at that point, we can connect you directly to the state level economic development organizations that are responsible, again, for bringing in investment into their state and helping companies there. And they can help you with what assistance is available on the local level and what the local rules and regulations are and so forth. Next slide, please. Our website has a lot of really great information as well. We have fact sheets on a lot of our foreign markets for people to understand what FDI from that market looks like into the United States. We also have fact sheets for all of our states and our territories, so people can understand a very general picture of what FDI looks like in that particular state and territory. And just this past June, we launched the first edition of our investor guide, which can help you understand the basics of investing when it comes to visas and bank accounts and things like that. And we're going to be continually updating it. We actually have a request out for for getting more information into the investor guide. So it's something we're going to be continually updating. That's available on our website as well. We also have a really good Select USA stats that takes a lot of the government information on investment and makes it sort of easily understandable and reachable. Next slide, please. Another tool that we use, our research team uses, but really all of you can use as well because it's freely available, is cluster mapping. And so it's available at clustermapping.us. It's a project of our sister agency within Commerce, EDA, the Economic Development Administration, who put it together along with Harvard Business School. And it's an interactive database that really lets you understand what industry clusters and subclusters, where they are in the United States, where they're growing, where they're thriving. You really can dive very deeply into it. It has everything from a state level down to individual counties and in between as well. So it's a really good place if you're looking at the industry that your business is in or that your potential customers are, and you want to look at some places that maybe were not top of mind because you didn't understand fully what the opportunities were in the United States. So it's a good way to uncover some of those locations. That may lead you to then want to speak to those economic development organizations to understand the best way to proceed there. Next slide, please. So platform for connections. I talked a little bit about direct introductions, so we can make those introductions to the state level economic development organizations, but we have other opportunities as well, networking opportunities, things that are done in market, in India and in other of the markets where we have a presence. Also, obviously, virtually, as everyone has gotten used to in 2020, all sorts of virtual programming that we have as well. So lots of ways to interact with economic development organizations and peers and us as well. Next slide, please. And we'll get a little bit back to that platform for connections in a bit, but navigating the federal system. So this is very important. The United States federal government is a large bureaucracy. It can be difficult for someone outside of the government to find the right human being to bring clarity to a federal rule and regulation. That's something that we're able to do because we chair this interagency investment working group. And we have over 20 participating bureaus and agencies across federal government. So we're very quickly able to get to the right human being to be able to answer a question and again, bring clarity to those rules and regulations. And even if they're not a member of the IAWG, we often can find the right person through other means. The point of that again is to really get a better understanding of a rule and regulation. We're obviously not there to advocate on behalf of a company for a change or a ruling or anything like that. The other thing that I think is very important to note, and I alluded to this earlier, is that most of the rules and regulations that govern how business is conducted is really in state and local law. It's not necessarily in federal law. If it's something that involves federal law as well, it'll usually encompass it as well. So you might want to start with understanding, based on the localities that you're interested in, where what those rules and regulations are. But sometimes it makes sense to understand it on a federal level as well. So we're happy to assist with that. Next slide, please. So we've started a few years ago Select USA Tech, which is focused on early stage and startup tech companies to help them understand how they can succeed in the US market as well. We're looking for high growth international startups, and we have all sorts of different programming. We have virtual pitch sessions, virtual tours, webinars on all sorts of trends and opportunities, workshops, and we have programming specifically for female founders as well. We're interested in all comers, but certainly interested in fostering more female entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. And that leads to our marquee event. So we have, every year we have a Select USA Investment Summit. 2020 was postponed to 2021 because everybody knows why. And so I want to talk a little bit about what the opportunity was for the 2019 summit. We had 3,100 attendees, lots of international delegates, economic development organizations from all parts of the US were represented in our exhibit floor. We had service providers, academics, exhibitors, and we had tech programming as well, which I'll get to, but also matchmaking, which is really the most important part of it, where companies were really able to spend a lot of time with our economic development partners, but also with representatives of the federal government as well to answer questions about federal rules and regulations, again, face-to-face and have that one-on-one counseling. Next slide, please. So just to show you a little bit about the 2019 summit, we had both the Indian ambassador to the US and the US ambassador to India had a really great meeting, and it was for the entire Indian delegation as well. It was really a fantastic event. Apart from the normal programming, but with the Select USA Tech, again, we had 93 startups that were there in person. We had a pitch competition, and you can see who the winners were over there. So we're really serious about the tech programming and making sure year over year to really expand it and to serve that startup population as well. Next slide, please. And so this says registration launching soon, but it turns out registration actually launched just a few hours ago this morning. And so our 2021 summit is happening June 7th to 11th in 2021. And what you can expect is a virtual event. We're going to have more than 100 virtual exhibitors showcasing investment, again, from all over the United States. We will have high-profile business and government leaders that will be sharing insight. There will be ways for people to find practical tools, information, and connections that they need to move investments forward. We'll have a robust networking tool to be able to set up virtual meetings with key attendees so that people really can maximize their time at the event. The exhibition hall this year will go virtual. And so they'll be able to make those connections between businesses, economic development teams, US government staff, service providers, all of those folks. And again, they'll be counseling, with relevant agencies. We'll have speakers, senior US government officials.
I think we'll have to move on with the time limited.
Sure, absolutely.
So do you have any more slides, Ravi, for Seth? Or
so if you can go actually to the last slide.
Yeah, I think that it'd be great to
I just
have
want
more
to show
questions.
the contact information, and no problem at all. If you go to the
Sorry,
final slide, you'll get to the contact information, both for me and our regional investment specialist based in Mumbai, who covers all of India. So please feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. And again, thank you, Smita, for your time.
Thanks, Seth. Yeah, thank you. A very informative session. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened here. Sorry, very informative session. Thank you from Seth about that. And the next we want to hear from MCC because the time is limited. I'm going to say move quickly your slides so we can get to real discussion. So Prabhat Garg, welcome. You are on mute, so you may want to unmute yourself and Ravi, I think.
Thank you, Smita, and thank you, Seth. Good morning from Washington. I'm Prabhat Garg. I'm head of procurements for the money spent through our partner countries in the foreign governments. We sign about $500 million contracts every year. So if you are not playing in our sandbox, I must say you are missing a big opportunity. Let's dive in and see what these opportunities are and how can you win from here. And my contact information in the first slide as well as last slide. Next slide, please. So we are a US government agency, as Smita said in the beginning. We were established in 2004 by then President George W. Bush, and he wanted to leave his legacy on foreign aid in the US government. and wanted to create an agency where foreign aid is done differently. So I'm sure you are familiar with the State Department aid programs, you're familiar with USAID, but MCC, despite our name as corporation, like Smita said, we are a US government agency. We are not that well known in the agency, but we get about $1 billion per year from Congress. And our current portfolio across the globe, all over Africa, East Asia, South Asia, Latin America, is close to $15 billion. And as I said earlier, all our programs and all our money is spent through open, fair international competition. So it's not a US tied aid, it's an international competition. And you will see later that Indian companies are winning number of contracts. And globally, many other countries are winning contracts. Next slide, please. So we are, as I said, President Bush wanted a different kind of foreign aid program. So countries have to qualify for our funding. The projects which we fund have to have a high ERR, which is economic rate of return of higher than 10% for each project when we select a project. And our money by design is a lot of money. It's a grant money, varies up to, it goes between $70 million to $700, $800 million. But all of it stays with the US government. So as a contractor, you don't need to deal with the foreign government. And this money, foreign governments have to spend through the programs within 5 years. If they are not done in 5 years, we literally have shovel down on the deadline. And as a result of this model, we have had a huge impact since 2004. We have built hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of road. We have built seaports, we have built airports, we have built large number of schools, all beginning from design till fully operational. Within 5 years, we know some other donor funds are still designing the projects. But so MCC model has proven to be very effective in international assistance. Next slide, please. So a little bit more about our model. It's all grant money. The governments don't have to return the money. And there's a high impact, as I said. Our MCC hires directly also, which is managed through US federal acquisition procedures. The programs which I manage in foreign partner countries is hired through international procurement guidelines, which are based on the World Bank guidelines. We have our own term called program procurement guidelines. And we do have a heavy emphasis on fraud and corruption. There is an Office of Inspector General monitors it. There are hotlines very widely advertised. And we have a heavy emphasis on gender integration, as well as actions against trafficking in person. Next slide, please. So here, since MCC inception, you could see the nationality distribution, how our money has gone out. You see there's United States firms are the largest beneficiary for dollar funds, primarily because our procurement procedures, which my group manages, are based on best value procurement and not on the lowest price. And US firms have tended to provide good proposals. And however, you will see about $118 billion gone to Indian firms towards the left-hand side, 2.1% of our funding. So Indian number of firms are getting a good business out of our opportunities, and we'll hear from Rakesh later on about that. Next slide, please. So here I have just to give a small flavor of which Indian firms are winning our contracts, and hopefully you will recognize some names here. And you will see the kind of projects they are winning. They vary from design to construction, as well as consulting contracts. So there's opportunity for everything in our MCC funded procurements. Next slide, please. So some more firms in different parts of the world who have won contracts. And you can see companies like Kalpataru and Tata's are doing construction. We also have, next slide please, yeah. We have also growing portfolio in the IT sector. guys know, TIE number of members are in the information technology sector. So this slide gives you a little bit of flavor of what IT related contracts we have done in the past. And as you see in Benin, $41 million contract has been done, then 12 million in Ghana. So these are large value contracts. Next slide, please. Reasons to do business with MCC as compared to directly with the government. Money stays with us and directly grows from US Treasury to the contractor account. So you don't have to deal with anything in a foreign government. As I said earlier, our procurement process is based on best value and is truly implemented, directly supervised by my group. So I can vouch for that. A strict 5-year timeline gives you a comfort factor as a contractor that you will get your money and work done. And MCC oversight is always there from beginning till end. So we are with you as well as we are making sure the contracts are getting implemented. Next slide, please. So here's a list of places where we advertise our solicitations, and they are very widely advertised all over the world. They are also advertised in local countries. So you can find us in many places. Next slide, please. I'm trying to run through, sorry, because short of time. Smita has given me a here. And on our external website, we do have a list of what contracts have been won in the past by the names of the contractors. That will give you an opportunity to find firms which are going after our contracts. And like Smita and Sandy said earlier about subcontracting opportunities, this generates you a list of where you can find subcontracting opportunity for new contracts. Next one, please. So thank you very much. And I think now is a real, as they say, meat on the bones, that how do you win our contracts? So I hand it over to Rakesh, whose firm, he has him personally led number of solicitation responses where they have won contracts all over the world, including with the US government directly. Rakesh, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhat. Rakesh, go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhat. Good morning and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As per the time zone in which you are, I'm very honored to be part of this panel. Thank you, TIE Hyderabad, for providing me this opportunity. I will start with a disclaimer that what I will share in the next couple of minutes is purely based on my experience of working with several US agencies in last 3 decades, specifically in last decade as part of my employment with Tetra Tech. More than 80% of the Tetra Tech business is with US agencies. I would like to share here working my experience with 4 different US agencies, starting with Millennium Challenge Corporation, US Aid for International Development, US Trade and Development Agencies, and World Bank. If Smita, you feel any point of time that we are running short of time, please remind me. I would like to cover the other agencies through the question and answer rather than covering that.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Rakesh, your experience is valuable.
I will also focus more in terms of, as Prabhat says, how to win the contract, what is the procurement strategies or procurement methodologies these US agencies follow, and what is based on my experience, some tips or some help in order to win these businesses. Let me start with the MCC. You have heard Prabhat as representative of MCC, and I will share my experience as contractor of the MCC. Tetra Tech is working with MCC projects from 2008. So MCC started in 2004, and we started working in 2008, only 4 years after. And got privileged to work in 21 assignments in 12 different countries, out of which, as Prabhat shown, about 30 countries in which the MCC. So almost 50 countries we supported MCC in this. The total value of our award was about more than 80 million US dollar, but they were the consultancy project, so small in nature. The construction work are much higher in the value. Opportunities from the MCC can broadly be divided into 2 categories: pre-compact signing and post-compact signing. MCC works in the countries which are low on the index of development. In the pre-compact, opportunities were generally of low amount and mostly like feasibility report to help MCC in developing the compact. They can be in any sector, which is crucial for the host country to improve their economic and social development. As you might be seeing, there were roads, there were aviations, there were transmission projects, there were schools, there were drinking facilities in the Prabhat's presentation. These opportunities are generally directly from the MCC and through IDIQ. So the competition is limited to IDIQ companies. The contract is generally time and material type. To execute the compact, MCC asked the host country to create a office which is called Millennium Challenge Account, MCA of that country. The MCA plays the role of implementing agency of the compact. MCA is normally headed by a senior serving or retired civil servant of the host country and the team of technical and administrative staff, mostly from the host country and few expats. MCC keeps an eye on the compact implementation with the help of procurement agent, fiscal agents, and making payment directly to the contractor. That's very important for the contractor, making payment directly to the contractor. So your payment is not subjected to the local conditions or the local office of the MCA. The main opportunities of the compact are generally big, more than above 50 million US dollar. And the procurement process of the MCC is well defined and documented, which is generally very difficult for the contractors to know beforehand what is the document, what type of procurement methodology that will be available. The document is available on the website of the MCC. And MCC uses all types of procurement method depending upon the requirements, such as fixed cost, cost and quality based, best value, etc. MCC and MCA normally do not go for EOI and then RFP, which is the general procurement process currently in most of the agencies. They prefer directly to go with the tender route with a provision for clarification and asking questions in pre-bid meeting. Otherwise, the tender documents from the MCC I found is most very clear and they provide the details, everything. The evaluation criteria is objective with little or no room for subjectivity. Normally, procurement agents takes care of the entire procurement process under the close supervision of and guidance of the MCC. If it is cost and quality based, the technical evaluation is first completed and the scores are informed to all the participants before opening of the financial bids. Some of the donor agencies don't do that.
Rakesh, can I interject a little bit here? I think you definitely very important what you're talking about, the details. Did we lose Rakesh?
No, I am here. I'm listening
Okay.
to you.
So what I wanted to get to from you, because of you're the rubber meets the road experience here, right? That you really know how to work with the U.S. government, being in India as an international. So for the benefit of the audience, I really would like you to focus on. So how can international companies work with you to make this happen in terms of U.S. government contracts? Like, let's say Indian companies or any other company in other parts of the world.
Yeah. For example, most of these opportunities which come from the US funding agencies are not restricted to any particular country. Some of the, for example, USAID and World Bank, they have the provisions for very few select countries because of some political and other reasons. Otherwise, firms from any country can bid for that. Also, for small entrepreneurs and starting from, they can make association or consortium with the big companies like Tetra Tech, Pricewaterhouse, which are the AECOM, which are the big players in the market and working with donor agencies, and they can start with them. And we also prefer them for the two reasons. One is that we also require to complement our strength, and secondly, we require the local support. So, for example,
How will they find out about this, Rakesh? How will they find out your opportunities to work with Tetra Tech or AECOM?
So basically, what happens? These companies, when a compact is coming, for example, when the compact opportunities are coming in Nepal, several companies knowing that we are the US companies, we are working with MCC from their website, which the information is available, and they approach us that we are interested, here is an opportunity in this to partner with. Then we do our own due diligence, and if we found good, we move with that.
How about your work with other international agencies? You said TDA and others, they can directly bid, right? The government, the international companies can.
Say only TDA, there is a slight barrier in terms of the working, because what the TDA does, TDA wants that 80% of the people should be US nationals. So if they, for example, they are giving a grant in India, they want that 80% of the people working in that assignment should be US national, only 20% can be local. So it does not leave the scope for the third country to participate. So it needs to be either US nationals or the local company.
I see. While MCC doesn't have that kind of restriction.
MCC does not have, USA does not have, World Bank does not have those type of restriction, only USTD, because their main purpose is to generate business for the US companies in that country. But from the proposal perspective, it's most easy because they give the financial grant very clearly specifies. You don't have to submit the financial proposal.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stop your flow of thought, but I think that it'll be useful to start the dialogue of questioning that's coming. There's a lot of interest from companies and outside to know about, and Tetra Tech is a great example here that has done work with MCC in specific areas and knows the process of how to go about doing it. And they can use the companies that are in India and other parts of the world, Nepal or wherever the compacts are, where the work is going on with MCC and other agencies, that they can work with you, right?
Yeah.
So one of the companies here, a startup company, is asking a question about, they have a bioenergy startup, and is there any, how do they know what kind of opportunities or grants or assistance available to enter that market? So maybe Rakesh, you can talk a little bit about with your energy background.
So basically, energy is a big word. So they need to further get them specified nowadays where they are. They are in transmission, they are in distribution, they are in clean energy, they are in renewable energy, they are in smart grid, they are in technology, they are in IT. Once they do that, they need to find out where these opportunities are coming. And for example, if they want to work with MCC, when MCC design a compact, on their website, it is very clearly available that this country where they are going to sign a compact, IT or the schools or the transmission line is required for their social and economic development. And once these startups find that, then the next step they need to do is find out who are the big players and who have been working with the MCC, and then they can approach them. The other thing is that, which I like with the MCC, that any company can do the first step also without taking the support of big companies like Tetra Tech, because their procurement is very simplified, very well documented, and anybody can submit the project. And that gets the same attention, which is not the case with the other US agencies. For example, USAID proposal is most complicated and documented oriented. So it will be very difficult for any startup to attempt that.
Right. No, you said that right. I mean, the government proposals for, as you know, in India they'll call tenders, but I mean, these are the contracts. The proposal for each of these are very detailed and past performance and the way to write it and all that stuff. So that's why I think working with US companies that have done it before is a useful proposition to start with, and then maybe learn how to do it yourself, right? That's what you're saying. First get the subcontractor then.
I'm
And
saying
also,
even for the USA, that's true, but MCC, they can venture it to do it directly also without the support of big company, because their documentation is very clear and it is easy to submit like any other tender.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Rakesh. Smita, if I could add to that response for
please.
such companies,
Yeah.
on MCC external website, there is a section where you can look at our 12 months forecast. So for a new company which has never done business, go to MCC external website, look at the 12-month forecast. We are contract by contract. We list which country and what sector, and even more details than that. So like Rakesh said, choose from there to say, this is my area. And there are also email addresses there. If the description is not clear enough, you can send an email and ask for more details. And then go back to the section where we have previously awarded contracts. And then you see that in my area for this opportunity, who might be going after that. So if you say it is Tetra Tech might be going after that, then you reach out to them and say, this is my strength and this is how I can strengthen your proposal. So that will be a kind of almost a mathematical way how to get started with MCC. Thank you.
No, I mean, just this tells us that, you know, how structured the US government procurement process is. They have forecasts that they have to put together of what their needs are, what the requirements are. It's well published. The budgets are sort of published, sort of. There are many ways of finding out what the project budget is. They have to give a budget a year before. So all this cycle has already happened. And so for those of the companies who want to get into this business, very clearly, every agency, and Rakesh just said that, you know, USAID and others, you can also directly compete with. So all the agencies here in US have that open procurement process. So that's great to know. So for all of you, one thing definite that opens the eyes for you, those of you who have not done it, that US government is open for business to some extent. Not all agencies are as open as MCC. But they are open to foreign companies directly bidding on the contracts. There's also a whole supply chain that I don't know if MCC takes those kind of tenders of supply directly, or Rakesh, if you've had any experience in just supply related rather than services industry that they can get into.
Basically, then those are World Bank and the agencies which are giving the loan to the countries are more appropriate for those type of opportunities if you are looking for.
I thought that
Which
there are parts people order from DOD and all that stuff, Department of Defense orders different parts from various parts of the world, right? That's a supply directly.
actually, particularly in defense, the orders are more like government to government.
I see. So they're not, individual companies cannot bid directly. Anything that Prabhaji, you want to shed some light on the supply side of
The
not just the
supply
service?
side in MCC is very limited. We don't, under our projects, goods are not bought directly. They are bought for a specific purpose. So for example, if Rakesh is installing transformers in a country, his company will be buying transformers, and they obviously come from suppliers. So suppliers
No, but
have
in
to
general
find,
for US government, if not MCC.
yeah, general US government supplies do happen. I have a personal experience with USAID supply business, which is open to international firms. And I know in the pharmaceutical, they buy a lot of stuff all over the world, and the Indian companies are plugged in there as well. And they are fair and transparent procurement opportunities, openly advertised like any other open tender from the US government. So even for suppliers, there are opportunity for all kind of goods in any sector. They have to systematically start, and they'll find their niche.
Awesome. So for those of us listening, there's not only the service industry, which includes IT sector and construction and infrastructure and energy, but also in terms and technical expertise, but also in terms of supply, that both sides can be looked at with US government, and a lot more can be found out. And this is a very short session just to give you a little bit of window on that. And Seth, anything you want to add? I know that very large incentives are coming from states, and I attended the Select USA, which was fascinating last year. I had never seen that many people, and I have to confess to some of the Indian counterparts here that I went to the North Carolina booth, and I was surprised that they were serving dosas and tea, and they were saying that the biggest investment they have is from Infosys that was creating 600 jobs there. So I was quite fascinated that they had attracted large companies to create jobs. So I think there's a lot that Seth had provided to all of you on the slide. So you have all their information. I'm sorry that we have to end on time. So but I really appreciate everybody who's joined us and everybody who may not have joined. This is a recorded session as well. They will probably take advantage of that, given the time difference all over the globe. But really appreciate Prabhat Garg and Rakesh Goyal and Seth Eisenberg joining us for this great informative session. Is there any last words, Seth, you want to say in conclusion? And then each of you before we close?
Sorry, we don't have time now, so we need to close because we have another
All right.
session.
Thank you. The other session is starting, so thanks again. All right.
Thank you, the panelists.
I
Yeah,
hope
thank
this
you,
was
all the
very
panelists.
useful to the audience.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
And
Thanks,
connect us with Day2 to do more business with the government. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.